Okay, so the Panasonic S9 has just been launched, and as I am significantly invested in Panasonic and the L mount now, I'd like to give my opinions on it. The S9 is a very polarizing camera. First of all, the size. It is a lot smaller than the S5 Mark II, which I'm filming on right now. The size is nice. The size is kind of like what I have always wanted in a travel camera. Not that the S5 Mark II is big, but sometimes when you're carrying it around all day and you're not working professionally, you don't want to suffer while you're on holiday. A nice, small, compact body would make a lot of sense, especially if you don't have to give up anything to achieve that small, compact size. Now, Panasonic has given up a few things to do that though, one of which is the EVF. Now, I wear glasses now because I can't see close up anymore. Personally, I find it quite hard to use the LCD touchscreen. Like when I was younger, I was like, why would anybody want an EVF anyway? But now, I can definitely see why an EVF would be useful. Say if I was using this camera without an EVF now, I'd have to walk around without glasses to see far away, and then whenever I wanted to use the camera, I just have to put that on or walk around like this and then do that to use the camera, which honestly looks a little bit weird. I know most people are going to be okay with the lack of the EVF, especially the younger demographic where apparently this camera is aimed, but I could probably manage, but it'll be a little bit of a struggle. And on top of that, not having the EVF solves one of the biggest problems that I have with the S5 Mark II, and that is how long it takes to go from the screen to the EVF when you put it up to your eyes. So not having an EVF solves that problem. Now it does come with a flippy screen just like the S5 Mark II, and I feel all cameras should come with this because when you're out and about photographing, especially if you're traveling, you always want to do selfies, and without a flippy screen you're never going to be able to, it's going to be really hard to frame yourself up properly. Also, this camera is marketed quite a lot for its video capabilities as well, so Instagrammers, TikTokers and so on, and definitely everyone in that group of people is going to want a flippy screen. Now, one thing that amazed me about this camera was how they were able to fit IBIS into it. Now, it reminds me a lot of the Sony a7C and the a7CR. In fact, they're probably quite similar in size. I'll put up a comparison here, giving you the size comparison between them. And Sony managed to fit IBIS in their body, so I guess it's kind of expected in this one. So it's great that they managed to put IBIS, and really good IBIS, in this body as well. It is the same 24 megapixel sensor from the S5 Mark II, which I find is a very good sensor, and I have no complaints about it. I get the best pictures out of this camera that I get from any camera I've ever owned. As far as operation goes, so the autofocus is the same as the S5 Mark II, which in my opinion isn't the best, but is pretty serviceable. It's really good for video, not so much for stills. And again, because this camera is marketed towards video making people, first of all, like all Panasonics it seems, that's just as expected. Now LUTs. Now one of the reasons I went with Panasonic was because you could have in-body LUTs, like you could set a LUT in body and you can use it for video but as well as photos. So what I do is I have made some LUTs using Affinity Photo because I've been using Affinity Photo for a few years now. So I have a lot of LUTs that I can load directly onto the camera body, and I could see in real time the kind of adjustments that are going to be made. So that also helps me decide which LUT to use for different situations. Now the dedicated LUT button on this S9 I think is genius, because if they want to compete with people like Fuji, for example, who have all these film simulations, it's got to be something that's easy to use, easy to activate and easy to swap between. And finally, the Lumix Labs app looks amazing. It looks exactly like, if I was going to take all of the camera users away from Fuji, this is exactly what I would have done. Make a nice small camera which is capable of excellent video, and also make an app that works seamlessly with it and allows you to do a lot of different things. Not just transfer pictures, but also change settings, edit the pictures using LUTs. Like, what other camera software has a built-in editor in it? I think this is genius. Now all of those people who were going with Fuji just for the film simulation, they're going to have a really good option, really good easy to use option. I mean, I have it on the S5 as I said. I have it set to the Q menu so I can also do it really quickly, but I think having a button there just always puts it in your face when you're using the camera, and it's going to mean a lot of people are going to be using it. Also, apparently you can make LUTs and upload it to the app, or like, I think they said that they have other creators who are making LUTs, and that means I don't actually have to go to the effort of even making my own LUT. I could just go through the presets, the LUTs, kind of like in Lightroom. You know how you can go Lightroom CC, that is, how you can go and you can take presets from other people. So I think it's going to be like that. That's going to be awesome. That's going to make it super easy to find a LUT that gives you exactly the look that you're looking for. So I mentioned just now that the S9 is a direct competitor to the Fuji X100 Mark VI, and it may not seem seem so at first glance because they're like totally different cameras. One has an interchangeable lens, one has a fixed lens, APS-C versus full frame, and so on. But what I think is going to happen, because of how they've implemented a lot of features, I think this is actually going to take everyone away from not just the X100 Mark VI, but actually the entire Fuji line. I think Panasonic, even though they don't make phones, they're actually doing this convergence between mobile and cameras the best. I think the results that you get from this, once you use the right lens, is going to far surpass anything you get out of a Fuji X100 Mark VI. And given that the size is fairly like mostly the same, I don't see why anyone should buy a Fuji Mark VI, a Fuji X100 Mark VI anymore. Now lastly, I just want to talk about the two lenses that were out. So the first one is the 26mm f8. Now I think that lens sucks. I don't recommend anyone buy that lens because at f8 is super dark. Like at f8 you are going to be getting less total light on your sensor than this Osmo Pocket 3 or even the main camera on your iPhone. So at that point, like, just use your phone, right? There's no point buying this lens. I mean, in emergencies, sometimes I've wanted a really small compact lens and maybe like even a pinhole lens or something, which will be worse. So, I mean, I can see some use case for it, but I don't really think most people should buy this lens unless you're looking for the very smallest, most ultra compact camera you can get. But at this point, f8 kind of negates the whole point of having the full frame sensor at all anyway. If they want to sell any of these lenses, this lens better be super tack sharp. Now then there's the 18 to 40 f4.5 to 6. Now this one is not an immediate no for me. This one has a bit more questionable value. Like, it is small, so it matches the camera really well. The aperture isn't too bad. Like, f4 is fine for travel, but f6 you're kind of starting to get into the realm of smartphones. So I'm not sure, like, if it was f3.5 to 5.6, I would definitely recommend that. But I guess you are compromising like the size, and in order to get these lenses small, you're going to have to start using a small aperture. So that one is a kind of a wait and see for me. If you ask me, I think the 20 to 60 f3.5 to 5.6, I had to read it. I think that's a really good lens to use with this camera because it's not very big. It has a decent aperture. I mean, it has as bright an aperture as you would want traveling anyway, because as I mentioned in some previous videos about traveling, you don't want to like destroy the background, right? If you're traveling, you kind of want to know where you are. So I think between 3.5 and 5.6 is good for traveling. Any less is useless. Not useless, but any less is not really any good. And any higher, and then you start to get pictures that are too dark, too noisy, too grainy, and it negates the point of taking a proper camera with you anyway. So for this S9, I would recommend the 20 to 60 to start with. I would also recommend like the Sigma Primes. Those are nice and small and compact and have nice controls on them. And I'd also recommend the Panasonic Primes as well. Those are actually quite small. I wouldn't really recommend anything larger on this camera, although I have seen a picture of it with the Panasonic 24 to 70 f2.8 and it doesn't look that bad. So I think in a pinch you could still use a big lens on this camera if you want. It just doesn't go with the whole concept of it really. Now we have to talk about the cost, because that's one thing that I found a little bit disappointing and could probably throw off for this camera. So I just checked online, and so you can buy the S9 with the 20 to 60, which is really the minimum lens you should get for it, and that's going to cost £1,799 here in the UK. Now that's a lot of money, because you can get the S5 Mark II, which has everything that the S9 has, but a lot more. A lot more. You get 2 card slots, you get the EVF, you get more dials, you get more controls, you get a proper hand grip, and all of that comes up to 1,899. So for £100 more, you're getting all of this extra. You can also get the S5 Mark II with the 35mm f1.8 lens, and that only costs £1,599. So yeah, that is a sale price, but now this is causing all the problems because you can pay less and get a way better camera. So I don't know if Panasonic's planning to do some deep discounts, fairly soon, but at this kind of price, it does really, it's the same price as the Fuji X100 Mark VI, and people are buying that, right? So I don't know, maybe people will buy it, but personally I would give this a little bit of a wait and see what happens to the pricing before I jump, or before I even consider it. So right, that's what I had to say about the brand new S9. I hope that helped a bit. Panasonic, if you're listening, send me one, I'll test it, and in the meantime, like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.